Alright, everyone, welcome back. In this chapter, we are going to discuss one of the most important parts of project management, which is project scope and work breakdown structure, or we call it as a WBS. This topic is very important because before we can manage a project, we must first clearly understand what exactly needs to be done. So today, we will learn how to break down a project into a smaller, manageable parts. Let me start with a simple idea. Many people fail in projects because they see a project as one big task. But in reality, a project should never be handled as one big thing. Instead, we need to break it down into smaller parts so it becomes easier to manage. And this is where WBS comes in. So remember this, if you cannot break down your project, you cannot manage it properly. Alright, now let's look at this diagram. This slide shows the rule of work breakdown structure WBS in project planning. At the center, you can see WBS, and from WBS, there are three important functions: organizations, completeness, and estimation. So basically, WBS is not just a tool, it is the foundations of project planning. Let's start from the middle. WBS is the structure that breaks down the project into smaller components. Think of it like this. A big project is like a big puzzle. WBS helps us break it into smaller pieces. Only when we break it down, we can understand it, manage, and control it. Organizations at the top right. Now let's look at the first rule, which is organizations. WBS helps to organize project work systematically. Without WBS, works become messy, team members don't know what to do, tasks may overlap, but with WBS, work is clearly structured, everyone knows their responsibility, and tasks are arranged logically. So WBS brings order into the project. Example, imagine you are organizing an event. Without WBS, someone books venue, someone orders foods, someone designs poster, but nobody knows who is responsible for what. With WBS, venue team, food team, marketing team, everything becomes structured. Now look at the completeness. This is a very important. WBS ensure no important work is missed. This is related to the 100% rule. Without WBS, you might forget important tasks. Project may fail halfway. With WBS, all deliverables are listed. All work is included. Example, in a system development project, if you forget testing phase, user training, the system may fail after launch. So WBS help us avoid missing important work. The third thing is estimations. Now let's look at the estimations. WBS supports planning, scheduling, cost estimations. Why? Because when work is broken down, it becomes easier to estimate. Without WBS, build system become too big to estimate. With WBS, design, development, testing, now we can estimate time, cost, resources. The important point is the smaller the task, the more accurate the estimate. Now let's connect everything. WBS helps organize work so project is structured, ensure completeness so nothing is missing, support estimation so planning is accurate. When these three work together, your project becomes clear, manageable, successful. Look at the statement at the bottom. WBS allows project to be structured into clear components for better management. This is the main message. Without structure, project become chaos, and with structure, project will become under control. So remember this, WBS is not just a diagram, it is a thinking tools that will help you to think clearly, plan properly, execute successfully. And that is why WBS is the foundations of project planning. Now let's focus on one of the most important principles in WBS, deliverable oriented thinking. As you can see from this diagram, WBS breaks a project into deliverables, subcomponents, work packages, and the key message at the bottom is very important. Focus on what must be produced, not what must be done. What does deliverable oriented really means? It means when we build a WBS, we are not listing actions or activities. Instead, we are identifying what output or result must exist at the end. Simple comparison. Let's look at this. Activity wrong for WBS. Design website, prepare report, develop system. Now deliverables are correct for WBS. Website design, project report, completed system. Can you see the difference? Activities are about effort. Deliverables are about result. Why is this important? There are three key reasons. First, clear measurement. When we define deliverables, we can easily check is it completed or not. For example, website design can review, approve, sign off, but design website, when exactly is it done? Second, better control and tracking. With deliverables, project managers can monitor progress clearly. Example, deliverable completed means progress achieved. Not completed means still pending. This avoid confusion in project reporting. Third, strong link to project goal. Every deliverable directly contributes to the final project outcome. So instead of asking, what are we doing? We ask, what are we producing? Teaching tip for you is, in your organization, do you usually focus on activities or deliverables? Most will realize many organizations still focus too much on activities. So remember this. A good WBS is not a to-do list. It is a structured breakdown of deliverables that clearly shows what must be produced to complete the project. Alright everyone, let's look at one of the most critical principles in work breakdown structure, deliverables oriented thinking. On the left side, we see examples like design, develop. These are actions, and this is where many people make mistakes when building a WBS. They tend to list what they do instead of what they produce. Why is this wrong? When we focus on actions, we are focusing on how work is carried out, not the result. For example, design. When is it considered done? Develop. How do we measure completions? It becomes unclear, subjective, and difficult to control. So now look at the right side system. Report. These are deliverables, something tangible, something we can see, review, and approve. This is exactly what WBS should focus on. Let me simplify this for you. Activities equal to efforts. Deliverables equal to result. And in project management, we manage result and not just effort. As shown here, WBS focuses on what must be produced, not how the work is carried out. Now, let me ask you something. If I say writing the testing report, is this a deliverable or an action? Well, the answer is this is an action. How do we fix it? We convert it into a deliverable. Writing the testing report is an action, but testing report is deliverable. Now it becomes something measurable and reviewable and complete. In real organizations, many teams focus too much on doing, but not clearly defining what must be delivered. And that is why project become messy, project is unclear, accountability becomes weak. So always remember, a good WBS is not a task list. It is a structured breakdown of deliverables. Because in the end, projects are judged by what is delivered, not what is done. Now let's move to another very important principle in WBS, the 100% rule. Main concept, the 100% rule simply means your WBS must include all project work, not less, not more, exactly 100%. Refer to the diagram. Let's look at the three diagrams here. Left sides, nothing missing. On the left, we can see a cube with one part highlighted. This represents a situation where some work is missing. This is dangerous because important deliverables may be forgotten, project may fail or incomplete, team may realize too late. In the middle, complete, correct WBS. Now look at the middle cube. Everything is completed. All parts are included. This is what we want. Nothing missing, everything accounted for. This represents a perfect WBS. Right side, nothing extra. Now look at the right side. There is an extra piece added. This represents work that is not part of the project scope. We call it as a scope creep. This is a scope creep. Why nothing extra is important? When we include extra work, cost become increases, time become increases, resources become overloaded. And most importantly, you are doing work that was never planned. So the 100% rules means include all required work. Do not miss anything. Do not add unnecessary work. Exactly 100%. No more, no less. Remember what we learned just now. WBS is deliverables oriented. So the 100% rules ensure all deliverables are included. Nothing outside the deliverables is added. Interactive question for you. So, in your organizations, which problem happens more often? Missing work or extra work? Or we call it as a scope creep. Most organizations actually suffer from scope creep, which is means doing more than planned. Imagine you are managing an event, missing work, which is mean forgot to arrange sound system, even and at the end the event fails. Extra work means suddenly add VIP sessions not planned. So it will cause your event to have a cost increase. Both a problem. That's why 100% rules is critical. So always remember a good WBS must represent 100% of the project scope. Because if something is missing, project fails. If something extra, project overrun. Only when it is exactly 100%, your project is under control. Now let's move to another important concept in WBS. When we create a WBS, one common challenge is how detailed should it be? Too general or too detailed? Both can cause problem. Let's start with the left side. Here the cube is very simple, not broken down enough. This represents WBS that is too general. What happens if it's too general? When your WBS has too little details, you cannot estimate time properly, you cannot estimate costs accurately, and tasks are unclear. As shown here, too little details mean inaccurate planning. In the middle, appropriate level of detail. Now look at the middle. The cube is broken down nicely, not too simple, not too complex. This is what we want. Clear, structured, and manageable. This is called appropriate level of detail. So why is this important? A good level of detail helps to support estimations in terms of time and cost, support scheduling, and also assign responsibility clearly. This is where WBS becomes useful in a real project management. Now look at the right side. The cube is broken into too many small pieces. This represents WBS that is too detailed. What happens if it's too detailed? When WBS is too detailed, it becomes difficult to manage. Too many small tasks to track. Time is wasted managing instead of doing. As shown, too much detail means difficult to manage. So the goal is not maximum detail, but the right level of detail. A practical guideline is each work package should be clear enough to estimate, small enough to manage, but not too small to create complexity. Example 1 to 10 days rules depends on project size. Let me ask you, in your experience, which problem is more common? A. Too general. B. Too detailed. Many organizations actually struggle with both, especially when they don't have proper WBS experience. Imagine planning an event. Too general, whereas manage event not helpful, and too detailed, whereas you call supplier at 5 a.m. too much. Appropriate is arrange catering. So the instruction is clear and manageable. So remember, a good WBS is about balance, not too general, not too detailed, but just enough detail to plan, manage, and control the project effectively. Now, let's move to another critical aspect of building a good WBS: team involvement. A WBS should not be created by the project manager alone. It should involve project manager, team member, and also stakeholders. As shown in this diagram, we have three groups: project manager, team members, and stakeholder. And the overlap in the middle represent collaborations, shared understanding, and joint contributions. What happens if project manager works alone? If the project manager builds WBS alone, important details may be missed, assumptions may be wrong, team may not understand the plan, and as the result, weak WBS, higher risk of failure. Why team involvement is important? As shown on the right side, there are three key benefits. More accurate, whereas team members are the ones doing the work. They understand actual tasks, technical requirements, real challenges, so they can provide more accurate input. The second thing is more realistic. When team members contribute, estimate becomes more realistic: time, cost, efforts, because it is based on actual experience, not assumptions. Third, increase ownership. When people are involved in planning, they feel responsible, they feel committed. Instead of "this is not my plan," it becomes "this is our plan." So WBS is not just a planning tool, it is also a team alignment tool. Let me ask you, in your organization, who usually prepares the project plan? A. Only project manager, or B. Team plus manager? The more involvement, the better the outcome. Imagine developing a system. If PM or project manager decides everything, developers may say this is not practical, but if developers are involved, what happens? So the tasks become clear, risks identified early, and planning becomes realistic. As stated here, team involvement improves clarity and reduces missing work. This also links back to 100% rules, where nothing missing. So remember, a strong WBS is not created individually, it is created collaboratively, because better input leads to better planning. Better planning leads to better project success. Now, let's move to another important practice in developing a good WBS using lesson learned from previous project. In project management, we should never start from zero. We should always learn from past project, past mistake, and past success. As shown in this diagram, on the left, completed projects, past experience, on the right, current WBS planning, and in the middle, a continuous cycle. This shows that past experience fits into current planning. Current project will become learning for future projects. This is what we call continuous improvement. Every project should learn, should improve, perform better than before. So let's look at the benefit. Avoid mistakes. If we document lessons learned, we don't repeat the same mistake. Example, previously forgot testing pace, now included in WBS. Second, improve planning quality. Planning becomes more structured, more complete, more realistic because it is based on real experience. So instead of guessing, we are using evidence from real project. When we use lessons learned in WBS, we can identify missing tasks, identify potential risks early. As stated at the bottom, lesson learned help identify risks and missing tasks. Imagine your previous project had a delay because supplier delivery was late. In your new project, you include buffer time, you include supplier coordination tasks. That is lesson learned in actions. And common mistake in organizations, many organizations complete project but do not document lesson learned. As a result, they repeat the same mistake again and again. Now, after understanding the principle of WBS, let's look at something more practical. How do we actually develop a WBS? WBS development is not random. It follows a structured step-by-step process. As highlighted here, each step is important to ensure WBS accuracy. If we skip any step, the WBS may become incomplete or unclear. Step 1. Review objective and scope. First, we start with the review project objective and scope. This is very important. Before breaking down anything, we must clearly understand what is the project trying to achieve, what is included, what is not included. So why this matters? If scope is unclear, WBS will be wrong from the beginning. This will affect the entire project. Step number 2, identify major deliverables. Next, at this stage, we are not going into details yet. We are identifying high-level outputs, key components of the project. Example, for in a system design, system development, testing, deployments. So this is an example. Step 3. Decompose into smaller components. Now we move deeper. Break down deliverables into smaller components. This process called decompositions. So goal for decompositions is to make work clearer, manageable, easier to plan. Step number 4, identify work packages. Work packages are the lowest level in WBS where actual work is assigned. A work package should be measurable, assignable, manageable. Finally, review and refine the WBS. This step is often overlooked but very important. What do we check? We check completeness, which is 100% rules, clarity, deliverable oriented, level of details, missing or extra work. So this is a kind of iterative process, whereas WBS is not one-time work. It is iterative in terms of review, improve, and refine. So notice how all the previous concepts connect here. Deliverables oriented is relate with the step 2, 100% rules relate with the step 5, level of details relate with the step 3 and 4, and team involvement throughout the project and lesson learned relate with the step 1 and step 5. Let me ask you, which step do you think is most often ignored in a real project? A. Step 1, B. Step 3, or C. Step 5? The answer is usually step 5, review and refine. In a real world insight, there is a many teams create WBS once and never review. That's why errors remain, missing tasks appear later, and project issues increase. So remember, a good WBS is not just created, it is carefully developed step by step, because the quality of your WBS directly affects the success of your project. Now let's start with the first and most important step in developing a WBS: review objective and scope. Why this step is critical? Before we break down any work, we must clearly understand the project itself. If this step is wrong, everything that follows will also be wrong. As shown here, we are looking closely at the project scope, like using a magnifying glass. This means we are carefully examining what the project wants to achieve and what is included or excluded. What must we understand? There are two key things we must clarify. The first one, what project wants to achieve. What is the objective? What is the final outcome expected? Example, increase sales, develop a system, organize an event. Without a clear objective, WBS will be directionless. Number two, what is included or excluded? This is about defining boundaries. What is part of the project? What is not part of the project? This is very important to avoid scope creep, confusions, and unnecessary work. There is a few common mistakes. Many teams skip this step or do it too quickly. They jump straight into let's list the tasks. But without the clear scope, tasks become inaccurate. So there is a important deliverables are missed. So remember, WBS is not just about breaking work, it is about breaking the right work. As highlighted at the bottom, this step ensures WBS aligned with project goals, meaning everything in WBS support the objective. Nothing irrelevant is included. Let me ask you, have you ever worked on a project where the scope was unclear or keep changing? So try to imagine you are asked to develop a system without a clear scope. You may build unnecessary features. With a clear scope, you focus only on required deliverables. So always remember, Step number one is the foundations of WBS because if you don't clearly understand the project, you cannot break it down correctly. Now that we clearly understand the project objective and scope, so we move to step number two, identify major deliverables. So at this stage, we are not listing detailed tasks yet. Instead, we are dividing the project into main outputs and major deliverables. This form the top level of the WBS, as shown here at the top, project. Then it is broken down into requirement, design, developments, testing, deployment. These are the major deliverables. What are major deliverables? Major deliverables are high-level outputs, big components of the project, things that must be produced. And remember what we learned earlier. WBS is deliverables oriented. So here we do not say design system. We say system design. Focus on output, not activity. Why this step is important? This step helps to structure the project clearly, break complexity into manageable sections, and provide a clear overview of the project. There's a simple analogy. Think of this like building a house. Major deliverables are foundation, structure, roofing, finishings, not yet the small tasks, just main parts. Step 3 in a project planning is called decomposition. This means we take a big deliverables and break it down into smaller, more manageable components. When tasks are smaller, they become easier to understand, assign, and monitor. This process helps project manager ensure that nothing is missed and everyone knows exactly what they need to do. After breaking down the project into smaller components, the next step is to define work packages. A work package is the smallest unit of work that can be assigned to a person, estimated in terms of time and cost, and monitor for progress. This is important because it ensures that every task in the project is clear, measurable, and manageable. The final step is developing a work breakdown structure is to review and refine it. At this stage, we ensure that the WBS is complete, follows the 100% rules, and does not contain overlapping tasks. This step is important to make sure that the project scope is fully recovered without duplications or missing elements. This slide explains how a work breakdown structure is connected to project scheduling. After the WBS is developed, the project is broken down into smaller components called work packages, such as WPA, WPB, and WPC. However, having work packages alone is not enough. The next important step is to organize and sequence these work packages based on their logical order. This means we need to identify which tasks should be done first, which tasks can run at the same time, and which tasks depend on others before they can begin. Once the sequence is determined, we then move into scheduling, where each work package is assigned a specific time frame, such as week 1, week 2, and so on. This process also involves identifying dependencies, meaning understanding the relationship between tasks. For example, one task cannot start until another is completed. By doing this, project managers can create a clear timeline of activities. Finally, All this information is visualized using tools such as a Gantt chart, which help track progress and to project ensure the project will stay on schedules. In simple terms, the WBS tells us what needs to be done, while scheduling tells us when and in what order it should be done. Together, they form a structured and practical project timeline. This slide explains how the work breakdown structure WBS is linked to cost and resource planning in a project. Once the project has been broken down into smaller units called work packages, each work package becomes a basis for estimating three important elements: time, cost, and resources. Because each work package is clearly defined, it is easier for project managers to determine how long a task will take, how much it will cost, and what kind of resources are required. For example, a specific work package may require a certain number of days to complete, a specific budget allocations, and a team with the right skill or equipment. By estimating at this detailed level, project managers can avoid guesswork and reduce the risk of underestimating or overestimating project requirements. This approach improves the overall accuracy of project planning because all estimates are based on clearly defined tasks rather than general assumptions. In simple terms, the WBS helps answer three key questions: how long will it take? How much will it cost? And who or what is needed to complete the work? By linking WBS to time, cost, and resources, project managers can develop a more realistic and manageable project plan. This slide explains the three main approaches used in project estimation, which are top-down, analogous, and bottom-up estimations. Each method differs in terms of accuracy, level of details, and when it is best used in a project. The first approach is top-down estimations, where estimates are made based on overall project data from past similar projects. This method is usually quick and requires less detail, making it suitable for the early stages of a project when detailed information is not yet available. However, because it is based on high-level view, the accuracy is generally lower. The second approach is analogous estimation, which uses data from previous similar projects but with some adjustment to fit the current project. This method provides moderate accuracy because it relies on similarity, but it is still depends on how closely the past project matches the current one. The third and most accurate approach is bottom-up estimation. In this method, estimates are developed for each individual work package in the WBS and then combined to form the total project estimate. Because it is based on detailed information, bottom-up estimations provide the highest level of accuracy. However, it is also more time-consuming and require more effort. In summary, while top-down is faster and useful for initial planning, and analogous provides a balanced approach. Bottom-up estimation is the most reliable because it is based on clearly defined and detailed work packages. This slide highlights some of the most common mistakes in developing a work breakdown structure that project managers should avoid. One common mistake is focusing on activities instead of deliverables. A WBS should be deliverable oriented, meaning it focuses on what needs to be produced, not just the actions taken. When the focus is only on activities, it becomes difficult to measure progress and outcome clearly. Another mistake is having too much or too little details. If the WBS is too detailed, it becomes complicated and difficult to manage. On the other hand, if it's too general, important tasks may be overlooked. Therefore, finding the right level of detail is very important. The next issue is missing tasks, which can happen if the WBS is not carefully developed. Missing even a small task can lead to delays and additional costs later in the project. Similarly, the WBS must always be aligned with the project scope. If it does not reflect the actual scope, the project may go off track. Finally, one key mistake is not updating the WBS. Projects are dynamic and changes are common. If the WBS is not updated regularly, it may no longer reflect the current project situation. Overall, this mistake can lead to serious problems such as project delay and cost overrun. Therefore, it is important to develop a clear, complete, and well-maintained WBS to ensure project success. This slide explains the importance of having a well-developed WBS in a project management. A good WBS plays a crucial role in ensuring that the project is planned and executed effectively. First, it improves planning by breaking down the project into smaller, manageable components. This makes it easier for a project manager to understand what needs to be done and to organize the work in a structured way. Second, a WBS helps to reduce risk. When all tasks and deliverables are clearly identified, there is a lower chance of missing important activities. This reduces unexpected issues that may arise during the project. Third, it supports coordination among team members. With a clear breakdown of work, everyone understands their responsibility and how their tasks are connected to others. This improves communications and teamwork throughout the project. Finally, a WBS helps to prevent scope issues such as scope creep. By clearly defining all deliverables at the beginnings, it becomes easier to control changes and ensure the project stays within its original scope. In summary, a good WBS helps organize work systematically and ensure that nothing is overlooked, making it a fundamental tool for successful project management. So class, let's do some mini activities. So keep it simple and practical. First, choose one project. It can be anything. For example, organizing an event, developing a system, opening a small business. Step 1. Identify deliverables. Think about what is the final output of your project. Example, if your project is an event, deliverables might be venue ready, guest list, event program. Step number 2, break into WBS, work breakdown structures. Now break the project into smaller parts. Don't think big, think manageable tasks. Example, event, you should provide venue preparations, you should do a marketing, you should do registrations. And step number 3 is identify work packages. So now we go even deeper. Work package equal to smallest task you can assign to someone. Example, for marketing, design poster, post on social media, contact participants, and later we will discuss, are your work packages clear? So can someone actually execute them? And because in a real project, if tasks are not clear, project will fail. All right, everyone, before we end chapter 2, let's take a moment to reflect on what we have learned today. In this chapter, we explore how a project moves from a general idea into a structured and manageable plan. We discuss the importance of defining the project scope clearly, identifying key deliverables, and breaking down the work using the work breakdown structures. So I hope that you gain something from this topic and see you in the next video. Bye bye.